Hey, what's up? My name is Samuel Leeds, and Sadiq Kahn has very recently been re-elected as the Mayor of London. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how this is going to affect you as a property investor or potential property investor. Now, I did predict that Sadiq was probably going to be re-elected, so it's no surprise, but I've researched heavily into what I think the repercussions of this are going to be for landlords, not just in London, but across the whole of the UK, because we know that everywhere follows London. So if something happens in London, it will usually ripple out and affect other areas as well. So take heed if you are a property investor, take notes, and of course form your own opinion. Everything I'm saying in this video is just my opinion. And one of the things that happened with Sadiq, actually he didn't win by massive, he got 55.2% votes, so he did win comfortably, followed by Sean Bailey from Conservative Party, who got 44.8%, so it's a pretty good run, pretty good run. But something that Sadiq said that I think is very interesting, and I would agree with, is he said that he is concerned about the increasing dividedness between us, not just in London, but across the country. And I do agree with him on that point, that it does seem to be a bigger and bigger, a wider divide between the rich and poor, the left and right, between Labour and Conservative. People all assume I'm Conservative. People say, oh, he's a Tory, he's a Tory. I'm not necessarily anything. I'll vote depending on what the policies are at the time. And I don't disagree with everything that Sadiq does or says. I had a debate with Hakeem, who was an elected official for Labour Party, and I said, look, I'm not saying that I want Sadiq to fail. In fact, if Sadiq gets in, I want him to win. I want him to win. I want all our leaders to win, because if their agenda is to make the country better, which it should be, then wanting them to fail is like wanting the pilot of your plane to crash. It's nuts. So, that's kind of generally my thought process. So in this video, I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Sadiq's policies and how they're going to affect property investors or people wanting to step into the property market. Really important point as well is I believe that the reason there's a big divide in politics, but not just in politics, just generally, is because if someone says something and you don't agree with them, back in the day, what would you do? You debate with them, right? Let's have a conversation, let's have a discussion. Now, if someone says something you don't like, you block them, you troll them, you hate them, you alienate them, and that's why there's a bigger divide. So I'm really pro debating. I think if you agree on stuff, the stuff that I agree with Sadiq on, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The stuff that we agree on, let's stand together. Let's work together. And the stuff that we disagree on, let's have healthy debates. Because when you have a healthy debate, what you'll normally find is you don't disagree on the end solution, you disagree on the means to get there. When I had my debate with Hakeem, we both agreed that we wanted more affordable houses in London. We agreed that we want people to be at peace, and we want people to be free, and we want people to be happy. Of course. But it's about how do we get there? So people argue and kill each other and hate each other over just the road to get there because they disagree on the route, and I think that is madness. So let's start by looking at the things I agree with Sadiq on and the things that I think are working really well. So number one, the good stuff is he is providing loans to developers for affordable accommodation. That is fantastic, because that's going to mean that we're going to have more houses. So I agree with Sadiq on that. He's also providing funding for for rough sleepers, which is, again, absolutely fantastic. He's also put a list together of all the rogue landlords in London who are operating illegally. Boom, good. I'm glad that he's done that. I think it's important that property investors have a high standard. He's campaigning aggressively for blocks of flats to be safe and to have fire safety, and he's trying to stop ground rents. The Queen's speech on Tuesday confirmed that some of these plans are going to come into fruition. So good. I can stand with him on that. These are sensible policies. The bad, so Sadiq is talking about this stand up for renters movement. This campaign about let's stand up for renters. Now, that sounds fine. I don't disagree with standing up for renters. But the ways that he's going about it, I disagree with. So a big part of the standing up for renters is, number one, 4 months notice minimum. So if you want to evict a tenant forever, you've got to give 4 months notice. Okay. But it gets worse than that. He's trying to completely ban what he calls no-fault evictions. Now, a no-fault eviction is when you evict somebody because you want your house back. You want to sell the house. I've had a tenant living in there for 2 years, but now I want to sell it and get my money and I want to retire. You can't. Because you can't evict the tenant unless they've done something wrong. I'm sorry, that is a stupid philosophy, a crazy policy. And what will happen, the reason I disagree with these policies, is that landlords will have a house, maybe a tenant will move out, and they'll think, you know what, I don't want to sell the house right this second, but I think I might want to sell it soon, but I'm not prepared to rent it now. Because if I rent it, I could have someone move in there for 30 years, and I'm stuffed. I can't ever get rid of them. So I think I'll just keep it empty for the time being. Investor from China, India, America, Dubai. A lot of these guys own houses in London, and it will just make them think, I don't want to even rent it. I'll just keep it empty for a bit. That's what they'll do. And what's that going to do? It's going to mean there's loads of empty houses across London, empty flats, which is going to mean there's less accommodation. It doesn't make sense. It sounds fantastic. Let's stand up for renters. But it is just flawed. And this needs to be debated. Sadiq says there's overwhelming arguments for some of these points, but I haven't heard the arguments. It just sounds to me like claptrap to try and get votes, to try and be popular, and potentially in 3 years' time, when he finishes as Mayor of London, to then just leave a big mess, the country in a big mess. But hey, he was popular for the 3 years that he was, I mean, honestly, it really doesn't make sense. So that's the bad. I'm against that stuff. So some good, there's some bad. What's the ugly? The ugly is rent control. Now, I've talked about this before. I've done a video about this before. I've debated Hakeem before on this point. And rent control is something that really bothers me. And I'm probably going to do an in-depth video about this if Sadiq starts pushing, and I think it's actually going to happen. Part of me thinks that he's been talking about rent control to get votes, but he has no intention of actually trying to bring it in. But I do get worried, because if he caps rents in London, it's going to really mess up the economy. Developers right now are desperate to go into London and start converting some of the rundown commercial properties, or the empty commercial properties, of which there's loads. You walk down London streets, what's it filled with? Empty offices. What are those empty offices saying? They're saying, convert me to a residential home. We need more homes in London. That's a good thing. And then Sadiq's saying, actually, I might put rent caps in place, rent control. Already developers now going, oh, whoa. And they're not wanting to come in and restore these buildings and convert these properties into homes because of the idea of potential rent control. That is going to devastate London, and it's never worked. It's ruined everywhere it's touched. Berlin, New York, Los Angeles, Scotland. Scotland have even said themselves, it's been a flop. It's been a disaster. The Scottish government have said that when they brought it in just a few years back. Berlin brought it in a year ago. Has it helped with rents? No. They've now got a 50% shortage of houses, and part of that is as a result. So I'm so against rent control. And if I see him, if I think Sadiq is serious, we'll find out soon. If I think he's serious, I will potentially, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need your help. Let's start a petition. Let's do something, because it can't happen in London. It really can't happen in London. So that's my thoughts. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I stand with Sadiq. Sadiq, I don't know if you're watching this, but if you are, congratulations for getting re-elected. I hope you take this video, and I hope you listen to it, and I hope you really think about it. And I think as a people of London, sometimes the people that have the loudest voices are not the majority. And it's important that we, sometimes as the majority, the critical thinkers, the people that can see the effects it's had on every other country, actually speak out sometimes. So those are my thoughts. I spent a lot of time researching this stuff, not only for myself, but also to tell you what's happening. So if you appreciate me putting my content together, please do me a favor, let me know in the comments, and also smash the like button, and of course subscribe. I'll be doing future videos. Every single day I do a video. Thanks for watching. Peace out.